Chapter 8. Peevish sighed and opened the door. Inside, Lord and Lady Rhoda Welloff were seated at the end of a very long table. Lady Rhoda Welloff still had a hat on, only now with what appeared to be a model of the gardens and grounds rather than the house on it. There was even a small working fountain in the middle. Also seated round the table were, Barry counted them quickly, he was good at maths, 8 other children of varying ages, boys and girls, all wearing +4s and tweed jackets of varying sizes. "Barrington," said Lady Rhoda Welloff, leaping up and slightly sprinkling him with a fountain splash, "come and meet your brothers and sisters." "Potential brothers and sisters, Lady R.W., said Lord Rhoda Welloff. "Let's not jump the gun." "Fiddlesticks," she replied. She came round and stood behind Barry, gently pushing him in the direction of the other children, who were all looking up at him, most of them, it had to be said, in a not friendly way. "Everybody, this is our new son, or soon will be, I'm sure. Barrington, meet Jeremy, Teremy, Meremy, Heremy, Quelleremy, Smellemy, See an Enemy, and Dave." "Hello," said Barry. "Hello," they all said back. Not, it has to be said, again, in an especially friendly way. Lady Rhoda Welloff was looking at the boy called Dave, a small, thin child with glasses. "We really must get around to your name change, Dave. What do you think of Bellamy?" Dave didn't answer. Lord Rhoda Welloff, Lady Rhoda Welloff, said Barry. "Please," said Lord Rhoda Welloff, "call me Henry. George, Tristram, Forbes, Benedict, Louis, Jerome, Mumford, St. Alban, Bernard, Eugene, Rhoda Welloff." "Yes, and please call me," said Lady Rhoda Welloff, "Penelope. Virginia, Phoebe, Sienna, Nigella, Bubbles, Daphne, Clarissa, Jemima, Elizabeth, Bernard, Virginia, Rhoda Welloff." You said Virginia twice," said Barry. "Yes, I'm called it twice. What was your question?" "Why," Barry continued, "do you want to have more children if you've already got so many?" Lady Rhoda Welloff and Lord Rhoda Welloff looked confused, as if this had never occurred to them before. "Well, to be honest," said Lord Rhoda Welloff eventually, "I think when the agency asks children what kind of parents they want, quite a lot of them say, Rich," said Barry. "Well," said Lady Rhoda Welloff, "we don't like to say, but yes." "And," said Lord Rhoda Welloff, "some of our lot are growing up. Jeremy, Quaremy and Meremy are almost ready to fly the coop. So we really wanted a new young'un, didn't we, Lady R.W.? "We did, Lord R.W., said Lady Rhoda Welloff. "So, Barrington, tell us about this party we're going to organise for you." Chapter 9. In his bedroom, Barry looked at himself in the mirror. He wasn't, it has to be said, entirely comfortable in the suit. Peevish had helped him put it on, which had felt a little weird, as his mum and dad hadn't helped him dress for a long time. But then again, he didn't normally wear suits, and certainly not shirts with cufflinks, and bow ties. Well, he had once worn a bow tie to a party of Taj's, but it had been a clip-on. The shirt even had a high stiff collar like Peevish wore, which you had to tie the bow tie around. Barry had tried to tie the bow tie himself, thinking it couldn't be that different from the knot he tied in his laces, but it just meant that his neck ended up looking like a big shoe. So Peevish helped him, and even though he wasn't comfy, he looked good, Barry thought, surveying his image in the mirror once more. He looked a bit like James Bond, which was very good, as that was what the party was meant to be about. It had been difficult to explain the party theme, as neither Lord nor Lady Rhoda Welloff nor any of the children with names like Jeremy had ever heard of James Bond. It was becoming clear to Barry that this world, although very like his in some ways, was also quite different, and not just in the obvious children choosing their parents' way, but he had done his best to explain to his prospective mother and father about his spy hero. Although they'd been confused about a lot of things, MI6, Spectre, jetpacks, and Barry humming the theme tune, they had jumped up in the air, clapping when he had said 2 magic words, casino and guns. "Oh," said Lady Rhoda Welloff, "we've got loads of those." "Casinos," said Barry. "No, guns. But we can do the casino in the great room, can't we, Lord R.W.? "Yes," said Lord Rhoda Welloff, "as long as you don't lose another 3 million like you did last time, Lady R.W. Ha ha! Barry had laughed along with this, but then stopped, realising he didn't actually know what he'd been laughing at. There was a knock on the door. Barry thought about what to say. Then he remembered. Come! Silence. Then, from outside the door. What, in? Yes? The door opened. Peevish leaned in. Your guests are waiting for you, O great Punjab, he said. Chapter 10. Barry had never seen anything like it. The great room alone was bigger than his school assembly hall. It was lit by a series of enormous hanging chandeliers, whose light sparkled off the silver turning handles of 3 large roulette wheels, which had been set up in the middle, and off the jewellery of all the amazingly dressed ladies who were filling up the space beneath. There were also loads of green tables, around which some of these ladies, but mainly men in tuxedos, were sitting playing cards. Everyone was holding drinks in tall glasses and talking and laughing. In the corner, a man in another tuxedo, only with a really long jacket, was playing a grand piano. It did look, Barry had to admit, very like some of the scenes in Casino Royale, the proper one, not the one with David Niven in it. It even sounded a bit like it, as the man on the piano was clearly trying very hard to play the James Bond theme tune, only not getting it quite right. Above the piano, strung between the walls, was a large banner, made, as far as Barry could make out, of silk, on which someone had managed, in a few hours since he had told Lord and Lady Raider Welloff the idea, to embroider the words, Barrington's James Bond Party. Barrington, said Lady Raider Welloff, and rushed over. She was wearing a long ball gown and a new hat, which had a model on it of what looked like a stretch limo sports car. Do you like it? She said, seeing Barry look up. Yes, it's an Aston Martin. That's what you said James Bond drives, didn't you? Lady Raider Welloff opened her arms and gave him an enormous hug, squeezing him tightly between her arms. As she bent down, the stretched Aston Martin at the top of his vision wobbled. We will, my darling, we are, she said. What? Said Barry. Bonding, of course. Drink. She stood up again and snapped her fingers. Peevish appeared from nowhere carrying a tray. Yes, please? Peevish, did you make up the drinks as Barrington explained? Without question, Lady Raider Welloff. She took a triangular glass off the tray and handed it to Barry. A martini. It's still lemonade with a grape in it rather than vodka and an olive, but as you requested, it's stirred, not shaken. She smiled at Barry and took the glass. Actually, I said it should be... He paused and looked at her big smiling face. No, right, thanks very much. He took a sip of the drink, which was delicious. Chocolate? He looked up. Peevish was now holding a tray of golden balls arranged as an enormous pyramid. My goodness, Peevish, with all of these you're really spoiling us, said Lady Raider Welloff. Peevish smiled and bowed his head at her. No thanks, said Barry. Maybe later. What would you like to play? Blackjack, quoits, Free on Par, Texas Hold'em, 5-card Naughty Bum, Penny Come Quick, Tucker's Maltings, Brew Undo, Sticky Finger Nothings, or Lucky Dicky? I don't know any of these games. Oh, said Lady Raider Welloff, looking very disappointed. She thought for a moment. Silky knickknacks? Basically, the dealer is a flop and each player has to lead with a jack, which is called the hunter, and then you get to bet who's going to have the lowest suit in any one colour, as long as it's not diamonds. If it is, the flop removes his silly knickknacks, i.e. hands over his cards, of course, and... No, I don't really... I don't think I can play that, sorry. What can you play? Top trumps, said Barry. And snap. Lady Raider Welloff shook her head. Frightfully sorry, Barrington. Never heard of those. Barry looked around. I could play roulette. That looks fun. Lady Raider Welloff brightened immediately. Super idea, she said. Here, have a chip. For a second, Barry expected to see her hand over a thin, fried potato covered in salt and vinegar, but instead it was a small, red plastic circle. On it were written the words, £1 million. She pressed it into his hand and began marching him to the table. Is this the smallest amount you have? Said Barry, looking at the chip. Afraid so, she said, without a backwards glance. Chapter 11. Lady Raider Welloff pulled Barry hard towards a particular roulette table, around which were seated Jeremy, Teremy, Meremy, Heremy, Queremy, Smellery, See an Enemy, and Dave. Hello, everyone, she said. Can I leave Barrington with you? They all looked up. No one said anything. Super, said Lady Raider Welloff, and disappeared into the crowd. Barry sat down between Jeremy and Teremy. There was hardly any room, and they didn't move up much to let him in. Place your bets, please. Barry looked up. Peevish had appeared and was now wearing a weird cap with a transparent green peak. With a smooth smile, the butler twisted the roulette wheel and set the little ball spinning around the edge. Jeremy, Teremy, Meremy, Heremy, Queremy, Smellemy, See an Enemy and Dave all started frantically placing their chips on the squares laid out on the long green table. Jeremy on red, Teremy on black, Meremy on odd, Heremy on even, Queremy on the first 12, Smellemy on the middle 12, See an Enemy on the last 12, and Dave on a corner of the table that just had a tiny bit of cheese stuck to it. No bets, your massive importance, said Peevish. Barry realised he was talking to him. I don't know where to put it. Got all the children around the table. Peevish leant over and looked at Barry closely in the eye. I think 23 is always a good bet, your bigness. And then he winked. I dunno, said Barry. I always like the number 19. Peevish sighed. No, your great silliness. 23, the best bet. Oh, said Barry. He looked at the ball spinning round the edges of the wheel like a cyclist going round a velodrome at top speed. It started to fall down the ramp of the wheel, heading towards the numbers. Quickly, he picked up his £1 million chip, and after a couple of seconds of frantically looking, where was it? Yes, there it was, between 22 and 24. He put it down on 23. Peevish, at that point, seemed to nod to himself, and Barry wasn't sure, but he thought he might have just pressed something under the table. At any rate, the wheel stopped spinning very suddenly, and the little ball bounced down from the edge and spun a bit on 24, but settled into 23. My goodness, said Peevish. There's a surprise. How much have I won? Said Barry. Peevish sprinkled a series of £1 million chips on the table and pushed them towards him with a little shovel. 36 million pounds, your richness. Oh my God, said Barry. He was about to leap up and stick both hands in the air like he'd just scored a goal, but then he noticed that all the other children were staring angrily at him. That's not fair, said Jeremy. You did it, Peevish, said Queremy. The new child always wins, said Meremy. Wah! Said See an Enemy. This is a lovely piece of cheese, said Dave. Sorry, said Barry, not really sure what to do. Peevish had appeared beside him with a small plastic bucket that you get on a beach. For your chips, your chipfulness, he said, and ladled them in. Wah! Continued See an Enemy. Look, I don't want to upset anyone, said Barry. Nonsense, Barrington, said Lord Raider Welloff, bursting through the crowd around the table. Jolly well done. And now, guns.